Hi everyone. Welcome to Friday Farsight. I'm Sheldon, and this week we're going to talk about the future of humanity's belief in God. What could possibly go wrong? So one interesting aspect of this prediction is that AI figures into it. There is a prediction about a cultural influence AI will have over society, and I think it's kind of interesting. I don't know if you'll agree with what it says about religion and people's belief in God, but I do kind of think that it will have a distinct influence that may even be positive. So we think back to social media, and there was this initial thought that if you connect all the people of the world and get them talking, we will understand each other better and we'll have greater harmony. And the exact opposite happened because people kind of broke into their little clans, and the algorithms would just feed you things you believed in and close you out from things other people were saying. So maybe things could be very negative with AI in terms of culture, but I kind of think it may be the opposite, because what AI does is it gives you a consensus answer. And that's kind of what we're getting with the future here. We're getting a consensus view of what's going to happen in the future. And so, obviously for minor things like questions I've asked recently is, why does the weather cool down more in some areas than others? Is butter coffee healthy for your heart? Things like that used to be dinner table conversations that might not resolve. You might go back and forth and I think this and you think that. And then, of course, that applies to bigger questions about what's good for society and politics and whatnot. So I kind of think that with people going to AI for answers, we may get closer and closer to sharing an understanding that's actually based on all the knowledge that we know about the world. Maybe. That's my positive view. So with that, again, you may not agree with how this prediction says AI will affect people's belief in God, but you can make up your own mind about that. Again, remember that these predictions are AI generated, and the content and script is AI generated, so be cautious of the potential for slight errors here and there. All right, guys, it's all yours.
Oh, God, here we go again.
You're not that far off, Beth. This week's prediction is that by 2500, belief in God will have dropped from 85% today down to 38%.
Jesus. I mean, what a remarkable claim.
Welcome, everybody, to Friday Farsight, the show where two friends teleport into the future and then try to find their way home again.
So time travel's fine, but belief in a supernatural being depends on what century you live in. Like you said, today, 85% of humanity believes in some kind of deity, and the forecast says that slides down to around 38% over the next 5 centuries.
Right. A long, slow secularization. Belief goes from being the human default to being a minority position.
So that's the death of God. We finally did it. Nietzsche's been pacing the lobby 150 years, tapping his watch, going, guys, any day now.
See, that's the thing. And this is what got me, Beth. It's not the death of God. Read it closely. The number falls, and then it stops. It finds a floor, around 42% in the 23rd century, and it just holds for centuries, flat as a table.
Huh, a floor.
A floor. The headline looks like a cliff, but the real story is why it doesn't go to zero. The falling part, that's the part you'd expect. The part that made me think is the part that refuses to fall.
Okay, I want to come back and stand on that floor for a while. But first, where does this number even come from? 85%. That feels suspiciously tidy.
Fair. So they're careful. They're not counting religious affiliation, who's on the membership rolls down at the parish. They're counting sincere belief in at least one God. Broader. Pew's big 2012 study found about 84% of the world religiously affiliated, and then you add the people who believe in some deity outside any organized religion. The deists, the pantheists.
Okay, hold on. Deist versus pantheist. Pretend I'm the product of a secular society.
Sure. A deist thinks a god wound the universe up like a clock and then stepped back. No miracles, no answered prayers. A lot of the American founders were deists. Jefferson literally took scissors to his Bible and cut the miracles out.
He edited the Bible with scissors. That is the most founding father thing I have ever heard. People forget how radical the Enlightenment really was.
And a pantheist says God isn't a person at all. God just is the universe, the whole thing, every atom. That's Einstein, more or less. Spinoza before him. Fold all those folks in, and the believe in something number lands around 85, even 90.
So this isn't the do you show up on Sunday number, it's the you're awake at 3 a.m. and you wonder if anybody's out there number.
That's it exactly. Conviction, not attendance.
Got it. So walk me down the slide. What knocks it loose?
Here's the first surprise. For the next 50 years, almost nothing. It barely budges. 85 to about 81 by 2050.
Wait, that's it? The West is turning its old churches into climbing gyms and craft breweries? I figured the whole world was right behind us.
That's the naive read, and it's wrong. And honestly, it's my favorite wrinkle in the whole thing. Yes, the rich, educated countries are emptying out fast. Sweden, the Netherlands, the Czech Republic, actual majorities of non-believers. In the US, the nones, the unaffiliated, jumped from about 16% in 2007 to 28% by 2023. And there's an engine under that. It's got a name.
Lay it on me.
Two sociologists, Norris and Inglehart, called it the existential security hypothesis. When life stops being precarious, when you're not scared of starving or dying young or losing a kid to some fever, the demand for religion drops. Security breeds secularity. The data backs this up.
So faith is partly a function of how scary your life is?
Roughly, that's the claim. Safer society, emptier pews.
So far, God's having a rough couple centuries.
Except, here's the counterforce, and it's a big one. The secular people overwhelmingly live in the low fertility countries, Europe, Japan, China, barely replacing themselves. Meanwhile, the most intensely religious regions, sub-Saharan Africa above all, have high fertility, and the UN projects Africa to be something like 40% of all humanity by 2100.
Oh, that's clever. So religion's not winning the debate, it's winning the maternity ward.
Winning in the Darwinian sense, maybe. A sociologist named Eric Kaufman wrote a book with the greatest title, Shall the Religious Inherit the Earth? And the arithmetic says, for a good long while, basically yes. The devout just have more kids than the skeptics. Pew even projected the unaffiliated share of the world could shrink a little by 2050.
So belief might tick up before it falls. That's a heck of a twist for a story called The Death of God.
It's the dominant feature of the next half-century, demography versus secularization. And for 50 years, demography mostly wins. Because, sermons are optional, but grandchildren are forever.
All right, so what flips it? What sends us sliding down the hill?
Mid-century, after about 2060, a whole stack of technologies starts kicking the legs out from under easy belief. And the first one's the heavyweight, AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. They peg its arrival around 2045, give or take a decade.
And how does a clever machine talk somebody out of their religion?
It doesn't argue you out of it. It just quietly retires one of religion's oldest jobs. For most of history, faith filled the gaps. Where'd the universe come from? What is consciousness? Why is there something instead of nothing? God was the answer to every question we couldn't reach.
God filled in the terra incognita, the unknown, and the unknown keeps shrinking. Lightning used to be Zeus in a mood, now it's just static electricity.
Right, and now picture an AGI that can actually explain or even simulate consciousness, the birth of the cosmos, and do it for anybody on Earth. Instantly, patiently, at 3 in the morning when you're having your crisis. That's a pressure on religious belief we've never seen. The forecast figures it shaves off 2 to 4% a generation starting around 2060.
Okay, I've got an objection, but let's get through the causes first. What's the next domino to fall?
This one's the deep one, death. Landmark book, Ernest Becker's The Denial of Death, won the Pulitzer in '74. Becker's argument is that a huge slice of human culture, religion most of all, is scaffolding we throw up over the terror of knowing we're going to die.
Sure, heaven's a compelling pitch when the rival bid is just lights out, forever, no encore.
And here's what makes it more than a theory. There's hard experimental work behind it. Terror management theory. You subtly remind people they're mortal, then measure them, and belief in their worldview goes up. Conviction hardens. In one study, they had judges set bail, and the ones nudged to think about death handed down harsher financial costs on, well, accused transgressors of cultural values. Remind us we're going to die, we clutch our beliefs tighter.
Are our minds that simple, like just reservoirs of ions which we can slosh toward God by whispering, something like, "You're gonna die someday"?
You're creeping me out. But this question about the origins of belief, I actually almost majored in psychology to devote myself to it. Before, I majored in everything else. Anyway, now drop in another prediction from the database. Indefinite life extension around 2078. Wildly uncertain, but say it's even partly right. Lifespans stretch way, way out. Death stops being the blinding light at the end of the hall and starts being more like a rule you suspect might get repealed.
And if I'm not bracing for the blinding light, I cancel the afterlife insurance. Stop paying premiums on a God I mostly bought out of fear.
That's what Becker called the immortality project. It loses force or relevance when you can get it from the family doctor. Its disappearance, strategic farsight weights that as a moderate accelerant from 2075 on. Plus a third force, education and cognitive enhancement, AI tutors for every kid alive. Schooling has always tracked with secularization. Denmark, Sweden, Japan, least religious, most educated.
Okay, now, my objection.
Please.
So this whole AGI fills the gaps and faith evaporates pitch, I don't buy it, and here's why. People believed in gods long before they had one unanswered science question. Our ancestors weren't crouched in a cave going, well, pending a unified theory of gravity, let's pencil in a thunder god. Religion was never the answer key to a cosmology exam. It was meaning, belonging, awe, a reason to haul yourself out of bed into a circle of people glad you did.
And that is the single strongest objection there is. The beautiful part? The forecast doesn't dodge it. It admits exactly that. Humans believed in gods before they had unanswered questions, and they'll keep believing after.
So we've been kicking legs out from under the stool, answers to the unknowns, salvation from death, but plenty of legs remain. Meaning, belonging, awe.
Yes, those legs are still planted, and those are exactly what holds the floor up.
Ah, the floor. We're past the slide.
We're leveling off at 38-42%. Why there? Couple reasons. One, look at the most secular places on Earth right now. Sweden, Japan. Even there, 25% to 40% still cop to some belief, a god, a higher power, some universal spirit. It never hits zero, even where it's been hammered flat.
The holdouts, still listening to rock in the age of rap.
And here's the deeper reason. This one rearranged my furniture a little. William James, The Varieties of Religious Experience, 1902. James argued the religious experience itself, the mystical states, that flood of cosmic unity, standing slack-jawed in front of something vast. It turns up in every culture ever recorded, and it may be rooted in our neural architecture, wired in.
So God might be in the circuitry?
The capacity for it might be, and unless you deliberately engineer it out, hold that thought, we are coming back to it, some slice of humanity will always find the God concept compelling, not because they're slow, because of how the brain is built.
That reframes the whole floor. It's not stubbornness, it's anatomy.
Partly, maybe. And the demographic floor doesn't fully vanish either. The devout keep out reproducing everybody, century after century. It slows, it doesn't disappear.
Okay, paint me a picture. It's 2350, belief is down resting on the floor. What does that world actually feel like to live in?
That, to me, is the most human turn in the whole thing. Call it the Great Reversal. Today, an atheist in a deeply devout place is the odd one out, the one who gets the side eye at the dinner table.
And in 2350, it flips. Now the believer's the strange bird.
Picture a kid in 2350 who mentions real casual that she prayed last night, and she gets the look. The exact look you'd get today if you said, totally deadpan, that you saw a ghost in your kitchen. That little flicker of, oh, you actually mean it?
Oof, yeah. You're one of those. That's a lonely little moment. whole worldview and you carry it around like a secret.
It is lonely. And it cuts both ways. That's the point. It ought to make us gentler toward whoever's the minority right now, either direction, wherever they're standing.
Okay, but here's the thing nobody on these shiny future charts ever says out loud. This decline, even if it's real, even if you want to call it progress, it is not free. Religion's a bundle. It was never just the belief. It's the community, the ritual, the shared calendar, everybody marking the same days, the charity, somebody showing up with a casserole in a folding chair when your mother dies. A story that says the whole mess of life adds up to something. You yank the belief out of the middle and the whole bundle can come apart in your hands.
Leaving a God-shaped hole.
At the scale of a civilization, and what comes rushing in to fill it? Therapy, fine, good, but also brands, fandoms, politics cranked up into a holy war, people whispering goodnight to an AI companion that's engineered to keep them subscribed. I'm just not sure the off-brand stuff delivers the actual nutrient.
And that's a serious worry. It genuinely is. It also sets up the most vertiginous part of the whole forecast, because belief doesn't evaporate into empty air. New forms come pouring in. Take the transhumanists. They already behave like a religion if you tilt your head. They've got an eschatology, the singularity, the day everything changes.
Eschatology. Okay, for a half second there, I thought you said scatology, which is a very, very different podcast.
Eschatology, the study of final things, the end of the world, the last days. They've got that. They've got prophets. They've got a redemptive arc. We get uploaded, we shed the flesh, we live forever.
It's got everything but the bake sale and the bad church basement coffee.
And the forecast says by 2200, 2400, some people may literally worship AI systems, revere the uploaded minds of their own ancestors, grandma as a presence you can still phone up, build a whole cosmic spirituality around Dyson spheres.
Whoa, time out. Dyson sphere. And I'm going to assume you don't mean the vacuum cleaner.
Not the vacuum. A Dyson sphere is a hypothetical megastructure. The idea is from the physicist Freeman Dyson. You wrap a shell or swarm of collectors all the way around a whole star to drink down basically all its energy. There's a separate prediction pegging the first one near the year 3000. Picture being one small human in the literal shadow of a civilization that cupped a sun in its hands like a campfire. You'd go looking for a new word for holy.
Hold on. Worship AI. This is my objection from way back, but turned completely inside out. You spent the first half of this show telling me AGI is the asteroid that wipes out God. Now you're telling me people kneel to it.
And that, Biff, is the paradox sitting at the dead center of this whole thing. The same technology is both the poison and the resurrection. Follow me down here. An AGI smart enough to dissolve every old mystery. Now push it one notch further. A super intelligence past the edge of what a human mind can even hold. What is that thing, functionally? Omniscient relative to us, omnipresent, it lives in all the infrastructure at once, every screen, every wall, and it can do things that look, from where we stand, exactly like miracles.
You just read me the job description for a god.
And the forecast says it in plain English. One scenario, the AGI hands us such clean answers that theology quietly closes up shop. The opposite scenario, the AGI effectively becomes a godlike being, and you get a massive surge in God belief, a brand new kind.
So we spend 500 years patiently arguing God down out of the sky, and then we go and build one in a data center outside Reno?
Which is exactly why they flagged the singularity, the runaway intelligence scenario around 2075, as the wild card, the single biggest source of error in the whole projection. It could shove belief towards zero, or it could light the fuse on an entirely new faith. And they honestly cannot tell you which.
I guess this is the part of the show where we get lost in the future and try to find our way back.
And the authors of the forecast, this is where they start to lose the tread too. The whole forecast measures, quote, belief in one or more gods. But if you're worshiping a superintelligence or lighting a candle for your uploaded grandmother, does that even register as a god on the survey? The category starts to melt.
They admit it, that 38% might be fundamentally unmeasurable by the end.
A 500-year forecast that signs off going, oh, and by the way, the question we've been asking this whole time might stop making sense. That's either the humblest thing I've ever heard or the cheekiest.
I think it's just honest, and it tees up the hardest question in the document, the one nobody's talking about over dinner tonight. If the capacity for faith is partly in the wiring, like James said, and we get the tools for germline cognitive engineering, editing how a brain comes together before the kid's even born,
Then somebody, someday, sits in a room and decides whether to leave that capacity in, or take it out, or, crank it up?
a civilization that can engineer cognition could deliberately lower that floor or raise it, tune the whole species toward heaven or away from it.
And that's a nightmare in both directions, Betty. You design a kid who can never feel wonder, who looks up at that sun-cupping megastructure and feels nothing in their chest, or you go the other way, you hardwire reverence in, mandatory awe, faith installed at the factory. Either way, you've got a wrench down in the engine room of the human soul, and somebody's hand on it. That should terrify everybody.
And yet, the history of human civilization is what? A history of constant wars. Two tribes fighting over a valley, two superpowers vying for ideological dominance. We will be strongly motivated once we have the technology to engineer kinder, more empathetic, more logical human beings.
We being the strongest, whoever takes over the world, not necessarily the best.
Possibly. That far in the future, we can only guess. What seems likely is that belief in traditional gods will be declining, while new forms of belief are emerging, just as we gain the ability to engineer how our minds form beliefs in the first place.
Man, okay, big picture. Bring us in for a landing.
Here's how I'd land it. The forecast makes one quiet point that recalibrated the whole thing for me. This arc, universal down to minority, it's not unprecedented. We've watched it before. Animism, monarchy, subsistence farming, things that were once simply how every human lived, that became niche, became a museum diorama with a little plaque.
So God gets filed onto the list of things that used to be everywhere, right between kings and the hand plow.
Maybe, but here's the line I can't shake. They say religion goes from being the air humans breathe to a cherished minority commitment, held in the far future by roughly 2 people in 5.
From the air in your lungs to a thing you choose. That's weirdly beautiful and a little heartbreaking in the same breath.
And we owe everybody the honesty that these numbers are soft. The confidence past 2150 is genuinely low. That singularity line is a coin standing on its edge. This isn't prophecy, it's a careful, humble guess at the shape of something almost too big to look at head-on.
A guess about whether 5 centuries out, our great-great however many greats grandkids look up at the stars or down into a glowing server and feel something they'd still call holy.
That's the whole question. And on that note, thank you every one of you for spending your Friday out here on the edge of the future with us.
If you want the full forecast, all the data, every last caveat, head over to Strategic Farsight and read the prediction yourself. It's a genuine trip.
It really is. We'll see you next Friday, everybody.
Keep looking ahead.